So I'm walking down the hall and I see these bad in suits, heels clacking. The energy is wild. And I'm thinking, I hope this works out.
Of course it started about making a better infant formula, but Bobbie has always been about more than that. Being a parent in the US comes with so much pressure, and yet we don't have the policies and the support structure around us to guide us through this beautiful and yet very vulnerable moment in life.
With the Cardi campaign, we opened up a hotline and we asked families in America to share why we need federal paid family and medical leave and their stories of why we need safer birthing in America. And we got 1,000 voicemails.
I'm calling for my sisters, my friends, my peers.
Babies need their mom.
So we made a promise. If you leave this voicemail, we will deliver it to Congress. And we came here today to make good on that promise and deliver those stories.
We are here with an amazing group of advocates, with policy experts, to come together with a united voice, calling on Congress to pass really important pieces of legislation. These aren't aspirational things. These should be fundamental human rights right here in America.
No, the suffering of women is so unremarkable to society. It's become so systemic, so cultural, so normalized. Well, to those who would normalize women running themselves into the ground and who would say that care can wait, I'll just ask them, who raised you? And was she compensated for her labor? Chances are she wasn't. And to those folks, I say, look into the eyes of a mother who's back at work just weeks after birth. Her body is far from healed and her baby in the NICU. It doesn't have to be this way.
Now is the time we have to get loud, and if we're not going to get loud about it, if we're not going to do it, who is? If we have this platform, you bet your that we're going to use it.
I worked up until 2 weeks before I gave birth with no paid maternity leave in sight.
My son spent 97 days in the NICU. I was not paid any time off.
Families are forced to choose between their health, their child's well-being, and their financial stability.
I have seen too many of my friends and my peers forced out of the workforce because there is no real structural support for parents without paid leave, without any respect for the work that is caregiving.
This policy impacts us in so many ways, and it would transform this country. Paid leave is also about the most important moments of our lives, and it's something that much of the world takes for granted, and this is about what matters most.
Paid family leave is bipartisan. We fought for it during the Biden administration, we will fight for it now, and by God, we will also show up for the next administration too.
Paid leave, we often say, is not a nice to have. It is not a workplace perk. But without it, right now, 1 in 4 women have gone back to work within just 2 weeks of giving birth. We hear story after story. The mother who knew that something was wrong, but whose doctors couldn't even be bothered to notice or to treat a cracked pelvis. The mother who had to go back to work at a child care center just days after giving birth to care for other people's children. And she struggled to sit on the ground because her C-section stitches were so raw. The mother and the NICU with a prolapse, who is running out of time.
Maternal deaths, big percentage of them actually happen postpartum for mental health reasons. Paid leave is something that can mitigate against that if you have time to bond with your children and you're not forced to go back to work. How does that impact your mental health?
I'm one of the very few parents of young kids in the U.S. Senate. What you're working on is so important. It's something that is really core to a lot of what I've been trying to do in Congress. Before I came into Congress, I was a diplomat at the State Department. I remember when my first kid was about to be born, I showed up and I asked them, so what kind of parental leave do I get? And they're like, oh, nothing. So I was really shocked. It was really tough to just hear how it wasn't just dads, it was moms as well. There was no parental leave program in the federal government at the time. There's a lot of caregivers out there that feel invisible, but I feel very strongly about this and something that I want to make as a top priority for however long I'm in the U.S. Senate.
It is a tool for public health, not just maternal health. If we don't make some changes soon, the economy is going to continue to take the hit. 500,000 women left the workforce last year. largely because of caregiving. And we're ignoring the systemic issues that are hurting all of us and all of our bottom lines. Numbers can go over your head, but stories are what we remember, and it's what impacts us, it's how we relate to each other, and it's often what gets policy done.
I believe that federal paid family leave, mothers actually surviving and thriving their birth experiences, is bipartisan. If you don't believe that families should have the opportunity to care for their sick loved ones, to bond with their child, or that women should have safe birthing experiences, you need to sit down.
Black and brown moms are 3 times most likely to die from pregnancy causes, more than white moms. That's 3 times.
Not prioritizing safety for both mother and baby is contradictory to what this country is built upon. We should not be having to advocate for ourselves like this, and no one should have to fight for basic human rights to care for themselves and their babies.
Too many women are dying in childbirth and pregnancy. That needs to change. Here in the U.S., our rates are way too high, and it's predominant in people of color.
At the end of the day, we do need safer births.
I feel that every single family in America deserves tomorrow. It's that simple. And we're failing mothers, we're failing families. Right here in the United States, we are the most dangerous country in the civilized world for a mother to give birth in.
We show up because survival should not depend on your zip code, your skin color, or whether someone believes you when you say, I need help.
20 years ago, my daughter and my granddaughter, their lives were at risk. My daughter had some serious issues, and of course the doctors weren't paying enough attention to it. And we were so afraid that we were going to lose both my daughter and my granddaughter. This is a personal fight for me, but more than that, it is a fight for our babies, for our children. They matter, we matter, and we just can't wait.
It's easy to let other people do the work. The consequences are that these are issues that still exist in 20, 30 years. The consequences are life and death, and we're not gonna accept that.
The CDC has determined that we are losing between 800 and 1,200 mothers on an annual basis. What that means is that that's more than 2 mothers every day in this country. Right now in the United States, in the richest country in the world, 2 mothers won't go home with their precious babies today.
Continuing to hear these numbers, I am scared by how we are normalizing them, by how we are accepting them. And it's not a question of whether we should try and get them lower. They simply need to be eradicated. There should be no world where in today's time in America, we are talking about any maternal health crisis.
But when I come and I sit down in front of you and I explain to you what it's like to watch the love of your life bleed internally for 10 hours. And I explain to you how difficult it is to tell an 18-month-old child that his mommy's never coming home. That's where I feel that the switch was flipped, is when we took the conversation beyond the data and talked about the human impact, and we centered the lived experiences of these women and these families. This is so much more than just data. These are amazing, amazing mothers that deserve to be here.
This work can be really lonely and shouldered by very few. Charles showed up alone and was on the Hill many times in meetings alone. And several years later, we were able to join. And now we have the opportunity and the responsibility to bring more people into the fold. It is not a photo op. It is not for show. It is life and death.
I know that Bobbie wouldn't be this committed if the team didn't believe that we could fix this. And I'm excited, I'm proud, being completely honest, I'm pissed that I still have to do this, and I'm not willing to compromise when it comes to what I know mothers and babies deserve.